Amid the global pandemic and record unemployment, President Trump is now threatening to shut down Congress. We showed you the president's claims on Monday that he has total authority over the states. A quick reminder of that.
What provision in the Constitution gives the president the power to open or close state economies? And then
numerous provisions. Will give you a legal brief if you want.
It's been states that have closed, ordered schools closed. It's been states that have ordered businesses like restaurants.
That's because
and
I let that
bars
happen. Because I would have preferred that. I let that happen. But if I wanted to, I could have closed it up. The President of the United States has the authority to do what the President has the authority to do, which is very powerful. The President of the United States calls the shots. They can't do anything without the approval of the President of the United States. When somebody's the President of the United States, the authority is total. And that's the way it's got to be.
Your authority is total.
It's total.
You said when someone is President of the United States, their authority is total. That is not true. Who
Okay,
told
you know
that?
what we're going to do? We're going to write up papers on this. It's not going to be necessary because the governors need us one way or the other, because ultimately it comes with the federal government. That being said, we're getting along very well with the governors, and I feel very certain that there won't be a problem. Yeah, please, go ahead.
Has any governor agreed that you have the authority to decide when their state
I haven't
opens
asked
back up?
anybody because I
No one
don't.
has
You know why?
agreed.
Because I don't have to. Go ahead, please.
But who told you the president has the total authority?
Enough, please.
The authority of the president is total. Total.
Yeah.
Where other than Liz Cheney and a few other Republicans, where
We're following
where are the
him,
quote constitutionalists?
and they'll have to live with that. And their children and grandchildren will look at them in history as those who followed him into a very bad direction, pushed him.
Where he was speaking like a totalitarian leader, and they said nothing about it.
Yep. Yesterday, the president tried to flex
Whatever
that
floats your boat, I
authoritarian
guess.
impulse again, this time wanting to force Congress into a recess so he can use recess appointments to get his stalled nominees into senior positions and on the federal bench without Senate approval. The Constitution allows a president to adjourn Congress if House and Senate leaders can't agree on whether to adjourn. But that's not the case here. And no president has ever used that power.
We have a tremendous number of people that have to come into government, and now more so than ever before because of the virus and the problem. We have to do it, and we have to do whatever we have to do.
Earlier last month, you were in the Oval Office, talked about now is not the time for partisanship. How will that act lower the partisanship in this town, and could it potentially hinder your ability to get something done on coronavirus?
Well, it is. Look, it's been a very partisan government for a long period of time, not just this administration. You can go back into the last two administrations. You've seen a lot of partisanship. But I have a very strong power. I'd rather not use that power, but we have way over 100 people that we very badly need in this administration that should have been approved a long time ago. And one of them is the head of Voice of America. If you look at what they're doing and what they're saying about our country, it's a disgrace, the people that are running that. We have somebody that's really good, really talented, and that loves our country. And I want to get these people approved.
What's the timeline for that, though? If Congress doesn't act by when, do you have a date?
They know. They've been warned, and they're being warned right now. If they don't approve it, then we're going to go this route. And we'll probably be challenged in court, and we'll see who wins.
The more he talks like that during these briefings, Joe, where Dr. Birx is sitting there freezing instead of working on the coronavirus, you wonder what exactly is getting done in there that is constructive. He uses the questions to do that or to flout his lies. He never answers the questions during these briefings. Never answers.
And when he knows where a question's going that would require him to tell an uncomfortable truth, he just cuts off the reporter and runs over them. There's no news value to these press conferences. They're not really press conferences. Yesterday was a partisan political rally. Nothing more than a partisan.
Dr. Birx sitting right there, wasting her time. Wasting hours of her time.
Wasting so much time. Hey, let's bring in another guy whose time was wasted yesterday, sitting through it, NBC News correspondent Hans Nichols. He wouldn't see it that way, but, But anyway, you just saw him questioning the president. Hans, so the irony is so thick that this president is complaining about vacancies in his administration when he has purposefully had more acting secretaries than any president in our lifetime and more vacancies by design, like Jared and the president at the beginning of this administration decided they were going to have as many vacancies as possible because they wanted to have all the power reside inside the White House. So why did the president decide yesterday to start complaining about vacancies, which he's really been a champion of for 3.5 years?
Apparently the Voice of America. Something tipped him off, a broadcast on the Voice of America that the president was unhappy with. He didn't think it was appropriately flattering.
What a small, thin skin.
You always want to be careful when you're talking proximate causes with President Donald Trump because you don't know who spun him up, if there's something else going on there. But he went out of his way at several points to attack the Voice of America. He has a new director that he wants to put in and try to steer that in a different direction. You know, he talked about the Undersecretary of Agriculture for Food Safety. But what's interesting to me about this is that he chose this time to really escalate the temperature in Washington, D.C. He still needs Congress. Pelosi and Mnuchin are still trying to work out a deal on plussing up the small business loans, right? That's at $250, or they're going to need another $250 billion. So at the same time the president is all but threatening to go to war with Congress, they need Congress for so many different things. I also think it's notable that when you look at President Donald Trump and Mitch McConnell, there hasn't been any daylight on so many issues, particularly with judges. There is going to be a yawning gap when you look at what McConnell's statement was on this idea of having the presidency, a different power, a different branch of government, adjourn Congress. There are clearly going to be differences there. So in a lot of ways, while this could be a fight between the president and Pelosi, which, I mean, it's hard to have a fight if you're not actually talking, the bigger issue here could be between the president and the Senate Majority Leader that he has been up to this point walking in lockstep in. Guys?
So, Hans, help us out here. I know when the president talked about reopening by Easter, we immediately said that, he was just sending a message to business that, he was pushing back on his health advisors. He knew that we couldn't reopen our economy fully by Easter. Do we have the same thing happening here with the May 1st date with testing still as pathetic as it is, if you look at it at a per citizen ratio?
Right. I wouldn't be so surprised, right? I actually think the president is this time more serious about it because they think the combination of diagnostic testing and surveillance testing, sort of monitoring what's happening, could be sufficient to open up parts of the country on a regional basis. So in the past, it seems like he's been sort of winking at the markets, trying to juice the stock market or send a signal to at least those Americans that do want to get back to work, which, right, let's be honest about this. There is a big debate in the country about when to open up. And in the past, at least with the Easter, it seemed as though the president was nodding. This seems more serious. Again, though, the testing, I mean, you guys are talking about sort of the overall confidence issue. The power of the presidency is limited, and the rhetorical powers are limited. And even if the president says open up, there's no guarantee. And this is what he heard, as Jonathan was mentioning on the call with business leaders. This is what he heard, is that there might not be the public confidence. And I don't want to do any sports metaphors here, in part because there's no sports to watch, but confidence is a tricky thing to instill. And I don't know if the president, at least for the half of the country, or more than half, we can have a debate, that doesn't really listen to him, how he's going to inspire people to let them know that it's safe to go out and resume living their lives. Guys?
Well, in the president's most, let's just say the swing state that has been most supportive of the president in the past, a recent poll showed that 57% of Floridians don't trust the president when he's talking about the coronavirus. So it is going to be hard for him to instill that confidence. Thank you so much for being with us.
Great job.
It's greatly appreciated. Willie, we're going to have to reopen. We're going to have to reopen this economy at some point. I don't know if it's going to be May the 1st or not. But again, the question that I know a lot of employees, including people who work with us, people who work in our friends' small businesses, they're going to want to know that when they go back to work, that they're not going to be bringing home the coronavirus, a pandemic, to their parents or grandparents or loved ones.
Yeah, and that's the balance that we have to strike here. And nobody is discounting the impact that this coronavirus has had on small businesses and the cascading effects of that on families and employment. Obviously, we're going to get another bad unemployment number today. We all have friends. We all have family members, some people living in our own houses who are struggling through this with small businesses right now, trying to save employees, trying to keep them paid. No one is discounting how important it is to get people back to work. But if you get people back to work too soon, it's been said a million times, people get sick again, you got to close your businesses again. It backfires on you. So the president has to walk that line, but I suspect he's made up his mind. He's going to have new guidelines for certain states that we'll hear today, and he's going to tell them, all right, guys, I think the coast is clear, and we'll see what the effect that has on those states and those towns, those communities, and those businesses.
Yeah, by the way, we have a Morning Joe special report coming up in our 8 a.m. hour. We'll be focusing on two key themes. The nation's leading health experts answer your questions about the pandemic, and we're drilling down on how the decisions our leaders make today will affect the country long into the future. Our special guests will include Joe and Jill Biden, Pete Buttigieg and retired General Stanley McChrystal, and Lady Gaga talking about mental health. And as we go to break, we started the block with Republican John Kennedy. We'll end it with Democrat John Kennedy.
I stand before you tonight as a proud deplorable. Unlike some of the folks in Washington, D.C., I'm talking about the cultured, cosmopolitan, goat's milk latte drinking, avocado toast eating insiders elite.
I'm a Democrat. I support Senator Kerry.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.